Hey, Nomad here for another episode of the Career Musician Podcast. I'm checking out my screen over here to my left. I'm looking at the camera. I got my microphone, Pro Tools running. I am a one-man show, by the way, and that's all going to change pretty soon, so I'm very excited to talk about that in the coming episodes. But today I want to talk about something that is really important in the music industry, acting as a career musician. So again, definition of a career musician, someone who makes a career out of doing music for a living, right? So I was always a guitar player, a session and touring guitar player. That's primarily how I built my career for 30 plus years. And then I branched out into education and podcasting and an author. I have a book, Ethos, The Career Musician's Code. But then also I branched out into composing, producing, songwriting, you name it. However, one thing remains as a common thread. It's that I'm a professional. I'm not an amateur. When I started music, I might have been an amateur in the very beginning, but then soon I realized, wow, I really want to do this as a career, as a living, something that I can turn my passion into my profession. So I did just that. When I did that, I had to make a decision. What's that decision? Well, in the book, Ethos, I talk about it all starts with a decision to be great. So you decide to be great first. And then once you decide that you're going to be great, you got to kind of hone in on what you're going to be great at. And that's what I did. And that's what I'm building the business model of the career musician after to share with you in hopes that you can do the same with your skills, your raw talent. So first we identify what's the raw talent. Again, for me, it was guitar. For you, it might be something different. Then we're going to decide to be great with that raw talent. We're going to hone that craft and cultivate it. But then we're going to decide that we want to turn our passion into our profession. And hence we arrive at the career musician. Now, it's easy to say all that. But what are some of the key factors that set apart a career professional versus a musician who can play or has talent or is good at what they do? Maybe they can sing or whatever, but they're not really a professional. Well, three things for me stand out. And number one, it's the dedication. It's the amount of like, wow, are you really dedicated, or are you just waiting for that moment of inspiration to strike or motivation? You know, it's been said, and I posted on the socials, we don't wait for motivation. We get up and do the things we know we're supposed to do. We got to follow the process, trust the process, do the work. Don't wait to be motivated. Just get up and do it. That's number one. And that shows sheer dedication through a various array of things, including discipline, because we're not waiting to be motivated. We're just getting up and doing it no matter what. Number two, it's what I call our comms, communications. How do we communicate on a daily basis in everything that we do, every project that we're involved in, every gig, every session, every preparatory process? So if we're writing charts for a session or a gig, or if we're sending emails and dealing with correspondence for a session or a gig or a project, if we're developing some graphic assets, you know, we have to do some mock-ups and some artwork and whatnot. If we're building a database of songs or cues that go into a cue sheet for film and TV and video games, no matter what we're doing, how are we communicating through that process? And why am I saying this? Well, all those tasks that I listed, technically you can do on your own, but chances are you're working as part of a team. You're a member of a team. It could be a small team. It could be a two-person team. My wife and I have a duo, Nomad and Lola. Oftentimes we're curating all of these assets, but we still have to communicate effectively. So it could be from a duo up to a 12-piece band, up to a umpteen hundred or 1,000 or so, operation of different people in different departments and personnel. I'll give you an example. I'm composing a film score for a movie I'm very excited about, by the way. And I am just one person in this large conglomerate of people. I was talking to the director the other day, and he said that he was on a marketing call, and there were over 50 people on this Zoom marketing call for this one film in which I play a part. Now, what's my part? I'm the composer. But I have to communicate effectively as I am one of many, right, in this giant conglomerate that brings this organism to fruition, this film, this product. So how are you in your comms? Don't blow people off. Don't ghost people. Sometimes the simplest thing like heard, understood, copy that. Yes, that kind of a one-word response or short phrase response means the world. And finally, what separates the three things, what separates the professional from an amateur or a hobbyist? You show up no matter what. And what does it mean when people say, hey, you got to show up for yourself? Yeah, that's kind of trendy. It's a thing. But when I say show up, I mean show up prepared and ready to do the work. Period. End of story. We don't use excuses. I tell people all the time, and if you're late, I don't want to hear an excuse. There's no excuses. The only excuses are things that are beyond our control, such as a fatal situation, which God bless. Yes, of course, that goes without saying. Absolutely, an act of God, a natural disaster. Of course, those kinds of things. Anything else? It's just an excuse. And everybody else on that team or everybody else in this project was able to show up on time. So let's not even go there. Okay. So it's about showing up, being prepared. And sometimes it means showing up as part of the team where you have all of your deliverables ready to go. In this case, as a composer, I got to have all my files, right? And I got to have them exactly how the music editor and the sound mixer want them. I have to deliver them according to their specs, okay? Very important. So I must show up with those stems and those files according to their specs. Those are my deliverables that I have to give to them. So I'm showing up with that work, being prepared. And sometimes it is literally, if you have a gig, then you show up. But you don't only show up, you show up early. And man, I got there 20 minutes early. That's not early. That's just barely on time. If you have a gig that starts at 7, man, I've been known to get there at 4. What? Why would I get to a gig 3 hours early? Well, a couple reasons. Number one, if it's far away and I'm driving and I don't know what traffic is going to be like, I want to leave plenty of time. I also want to know if something happens, if there's a road hazard or I get a flat tire, if I get a ticket, whatever it is, right? I leave plenty of time. Number two, I want to get acclimated to my surroundings and situations. So once I get there at 4 o'clock, 4:30, and I know downbeat isn't until 7, I'm not stressing. I'm going to go hit a local coffee shop or get a bite to eat. I'm going to unpack my truck calmly. Right? I'm going to set up all my gear calmly and be chill and be happy that I'm working and making music with people, or for people, right? So these are the kinds of things that professionals think about. There's a lot of cliche sayings that what are the difference between an amateur and a professional? Well, for one, we've heard this, we might have heard this before. Amateurs focus on identifying their weaknesses, where professionals focus on their strengths and how to utilize them to further their craft, right? And to really figure out, okay, well, I'm really strong in this area. How can I find somebody who's strong in the other area, which I'm not? And then we come together, we build a team, we delegate tasks and such, right? So that's a hint that you're working with a professional. If somebody says, hey, man, I noticed you're really good at producing vocals. I'm really good at producing beats and tracks. Like I can make a killer track, but I'm not the greatest at producing vocals. So then your friend will be like, well, I can produce the hell out of vocals. So you come together and now you have a production team that's very effective. You know what I'm saying? It's so important for us to really think about these things as we progress in our careers and we pursue a career in music. Amateurs might focus on being right, professionals on focus about getting the best outcome. That's when I talk about objectivity, being objective in ethos. That's the O for ethos, right? We have to zoom out and say, it doesn't matter if I'm right or wrong, but what's going to be best? So I might be wrong. Maybe this situation doesn't need what I'm thinking, but it needs what somebody else is thinking, because that's the best possible outcome. Amateurs might think that a good outcome is the result of their brilliance, where professionals realize that a good outcome is usually the result of good teamwork. It's a good group effort, okay? Or sometimes it's just luck. A lot of times amateurs focus on the short term, but professionals know that it's not about a one-off. It's not about a one and done. It's about longevity, building sustainability. Amateurs oftentimes show up to practice. Professionals know that what happens in practice is going to happen in real life, in the game. So, sure, you can get together and practice, but if we just go out there prepared, let's go hit it, and we're going to make it happen. So a lot of times you might think of, oh, well, didn't the band rehearse for hours and hours and hours? Usually not. I can't tell you some of the biggest gigs I've done on some of the biggest stages across the world have had no practice at all. Or how many times have you heard from somebody say, oh, well, I got the gig and then I had to fly out to so-and-so, and on the plane I was listening to all their music and reviewing everything and making charts on the plane. That's a professional. That's what we do. We don't have to practice. We already have practiced countless hours. And let's talk about the 10,000 hours rule, the outliers. 10,000 hours ain't nothing. We'd put in 100,000 hours. So we know by the time we get on the gig, we don't have to practice. We know how to perform. And these are some of the things that set apart amateurs and professionals. So in review, the three things that separate a professional from an amateur career musician, basically what makes a hobbyist musician versus a career musician. Number one, dedication. You're dedicated no matter what. You don't wait for motivation. You do the work every single day. Number two, your communications. How do you communicate? You communicate with people you never ghost. Even if you think the answer is not what they want to hear, you still communicate. And number three, you show up prepared all the time. In any circumstance, any situation, not only do you show up for others in the team, you show up for yourself, and you always are prepared. These are the three things, my friends, that make me a career musician. And I want to help you do the same. Sometimes it's like, you think about situations where you're like, man, I remember working with that person. I was like, ooh, that was a rough gig, I remember I was driving out here in Los Angeles. There's lots of casinos and resorts and things out in the desert, right? And I was driving to a gig, and the leader of the band was like, oh man, it's all cool. We'll just jump in my van. I was like, you know what? Now I'm going to take my own car, my own truck with my own gear on my own time, because I just didn't feel like it was going to be the right situation to be stuck in the van with everybody. So I did that, and guess what happened? I was the only one that showed up. So that's what I'm talking about. Sometimes you could be prepared, you could be over-prepared, and it's okay. You got to make it happen for you. Make it happen, Captain. So it's something that I like to talk about. Also, thinking about this guitar in my hands. This guitar is a really special guitar for me. It's from my father. And my father is no longer with us. And this is this old Takamine. Right? You can see the headstock here. And right about there. Yeah. It's old Takamine, which means so much to me. And this is like what they call I think it's a chocolate walnut or something, type of wood or type of finish. I love it. It's older than me. He had it before I was born, and since before I was born. And it just means so much to me. Now, he had it as a hobbyist. He just played it around the house. And, it was just kind of his fun guitar. Well, I took it and I turned it into a professional guitar, right? How did I do that? Well, first I took it to my guy who fixes guitars, and I had him dress the frets and, file down the little notches and kind of re-oil the fretboard and adjust the bridge. And so I made it professional. So now when I play it, there's no little clicks and ticks and bangy things, but it sounds really clean and pure, right? So that's another example of being prepared and taking your tools seriously, My name is Nomad. I am the career musician. This is the Career Musician Podcast, and I would invite you to check it out. We have tons of resources. We're working on 200 episodes. We're going to get there soon. Subscribe. Please hit the notifications if you're on YouTube, so that way you're notified. Follow us. Download the show. Add it to your playlist on all audio platforms. And please also rate and review us on Apple and Spotify. Give us that 5-star rating and tell people about this show, because that's how we're going to help our community grow and rise together. I also believe that there is enough for everyone to go around, that we can all do music as a career for those of us who seek to do such and turn our passion into a profession. And that's, my friends, that's our goal here, where we empower musicians just like you for a sustainable career. All right, here at the Career Musician. So don't forget to join the convo. I want to know about some of your situations. What are some examples of where you realized, oh, wait a minute, I'm a professional, but this person I'm dealing with is an amateur, so I'm going to pull back, or whatever. I would love to hear your stories. Drop it in the comments. Talk to me. Hit me up on the DMs. I am here always for you, so that we can make music our business together. And I will see you, my friends, in the studio or on the road or out here in the cyber world. Take it easy.
I'm just a nomad, nowhere man, writing the songs in this one-man band. A nomad, yeah, I'm a nomad, hush now, darling, you'll be fine. I'll be back this way sometime. Until then, baby, don't you cry.